Good morning. It is Overreaction Monday. Welcome on in. We're wrapping up week 10 of college football, week 9 of NFL tonight with Monday Night Football. Lauren Jabbar here with Mark Zinno. Let's Bet It, presented by Superbook Sports. Zinno, how was your weekend? I know you had a buddy in town. Did you guys have fun?
I did. We did have fun. Saturday was awful. Again, apologies to Pickswise Nation. Takes a special person to go 0-for-5. But we made it all back on Sunday. Had a very profitable Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
So we called it a push for the weekend. Did have a lot of fun though. We got one more game tonight here that'll be part of my play of the day.
Hey, it's perfect for transitioning into our next segment, winners and losers. You were a loser on Saturday, a winner on Sunday. You know what? When you lose, the best thing to do is bounce back, and that's exactly what you did. So let's get into some winners and losers that we saw in week 9 of college football. I'll let you go first. Let's go through the winners. Who is your week 9 NFL winner?
Got to give it to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, pulling a rabbit out of the hat there. They go down the field. They're trailing 13 to 9 or 13 to whatever it was. They were trailing by, they needed a touchdown. Scotty Miller drops a pass in the end zone, and then they quickly get the ball back with under 50 seconds left, pretty much go 75 yards and get the game-winning touchdown. Without this, the Buccaneers would have fallen to 3-6. They would have been a full game behind the Atlanta Falcons in the NFC South standings, who lost earlier in the day. So with the win, the Buccaneers now take back first place based off the tiebreaker and put themselves in position to sort of control their own destiny, but sort of save their season, if you will. That offense is still sputtering, and it's very head-scratching watching that team play because they can't find the end zone with a roadmap and a flashlight at times. But all that said, they get a huge win when they needed it.
Yeah, my winner from week 9 is the Jets, and specifically the Jets defense. They were 10.5-point underdogs going up against the best team, if not one of the best teams in the National Football League this season against the Bills. And we all thought they were going to lose. I don't think there was a single person, except for maybe Jets fans, that were hoping that the New York Jets would win this game. Their defense is legit. Sauce Gardner, absolutely saucy. He leads the NFL in passes defended now with 13. And then you look at Quinnen Williams. He's tied for the league in sacks by defensive tackles with 7 of them. They put so much pressure on Josh Allen. They held him to his season low in passing yards at 205. He wasn't able to throw a touchdown for the first time all season in a game. He threw 2 interceptions. He was sacked a season high 5 times. And it's all about their defense. I didn't even have to mention Zach Wilson in that little rant that I had, because the Jets defense, it really seems like they're the real deal and they're holding that team together, especially with no Breece Hall and the other injuries they have on the offensive side of the ball. The defense is holding it together, and it doesn't seem like they're a fluke anymore. Zinno, do you agree, or do you kind of feel like that was, maybe more on Josh Allen than it was on the Jets defense?
Well, I mean, listen, I'm not going to take anything away from the Jets defense. The reason why they won the game is because Zach Wilson posted the second highest QBR of his career in that game. He now, after the second highest QBR, now ranks 20th out of 32 passers with a 48 QBR. That's 5 points below the league average. So I say all this to say that Zach Wilson is still a below average quarterback. He didn't make any mistakes yesterday. And that's really what it boils down to. When you're betting the Jets and you're looking at the Jets and handicapping them, you have to try to figure out if Zach Wilson is going to make a mistake, because if he does, the Jets are on the wrong side of that game. All it takes is one turnover for Buffalo to capitalize at any point in that game, and Zach Wilson didn't give them the ball back. So from that standpoint,
Yeah,
if he does that, Jets can win games with that defense because it's superb. But if he doesn't,
absolutely.
well, you're putting your defense in a bad situation, and good teams take advantage.
Yeah, a quarterback that showed up yesterday, Josh Allen, actually told it like in the press conference post game. He said, well, it's hard to win games when your quarterback plays like shit, talking about himself. So that's what he thought about his own game in that one.
Yeah.
Okay, biggest loser, week 9. Hit me with it. Loser.
The Las Vegas Raiders, Lauren, blew another double-digit second half lead.
You hate to see it.
I mean, I don't. I mean, Josh McDaniels may get canned after this season. I don't know what is happening to that team. I had such high expectations for them. I really thought they were going to take a step forward and compete. They've laid an egg on several occasions. Their season is done. They're not going to get out of the AFC West. There's just too much of a hole for them at this point in time. And, when you talk about the difference of, the NFL in each game being a couple of plays, yeah. Are they a couple of plays away from being a 5-3 team and tied for second place? They are, but in reality, they're not. They're 2-6. They're in last place, and they're not going to recover from this. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. Just very, very frustrating for the Raiders and Derek Carr.
Last weekend, I think their GM after the game, the shutout loss that they had, which was absolutely disgusting to the Saints, who we'll talk about in a second, playing Monday Night Football against the Ravens. There was a closed-door meeting between Josh McDaniels and the GM of the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't know what happens behind those closed-door meetings, but I know that he probably got an absolute earful, and then nothing changed this week. So it's a mess out there in Las Vegas. They've been dealing with it. We'll see if they can maybe get back on track. A guy that I don't think is going to be able to get his team back on track, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, because they are my week 9 losers. And I feel like we're 9 weeks into the season, and we do this segment every single Monday. I feel like I've called Aaron Rodgers a loser 12 times, and we haven't even had 12 weeks at this point. He has been not very good this season. And Sunday should have been the game for them to get right against my Detroit Lions. And I hate to say that. I love my Lions getting the win, but they are allowing the most points and yards per play in the league. They rank last when it comes to stopping teams from scoring. Aaron Rodgers threw 3 interceptions for the first time since 2017, and one of them to the rookie in Aiden Hutchinson, which good for him. Love my Michigan guy, also playing for the Lions. Before this game, the Lions secondary only had 2 interceptions all season. The Packers have now lost 5 games in a row. They have less than a 1% chance at this point to win the NFC North over the 7-1 Vikings, and they have the toughest remaining strength of schedule. He couldn't put up points against the worst defense in the league. This is an all-time low for Aaron Rodgers. 5 losses in a row. He's a loser 12 times in the 9 weeks that we've had so far. I don't even know how that math works out, but I have just not been on the Packers since the beginning. I'm still not on them now. I loved seeing my Lions win, but biggest loser was Aaron Rodgers. I think in terms of biggest overreaction, we're both on the same page with this one, but I'll let you go first because we're going to take it up to New York.
I mean, people are making a lot of the Buffalo Bills losing 2 division games. They're 0-2 in the division, yet they're 6-2 and tied for the best record in the AFC. I mean, they did go beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead. If you want to minimize that in favor of losing a game in 110-degree heat against Miami, in which, I don't know, they just made some very critical mistakes down the end. They probably outplayed Miami in that game, including knocking Tua senseless in the game. All that considered, I don't worry about the Bills. They'll be there. It's just a question of whether the road of the AFC playoffs goes through Buffalo or not. These are the kind of games that'll hurt you. You can't have a bad division record and hope to win a Super Bowl. It just usually doesn't work out that way. You got to beat the teams that are in your division first, but I'm not worried about Buffalo.
Yeah, I also agree with you. I feel like this is a big wake-up call for the Buffalo Bills at this point, right? Like Josh Allen played like he was back in his rookie year, which we rarely see. And Zach Wilson, which we also rarely see, like poised under center. So I feel like both guys were almost like channeling each other's energy at that point and just like flip-flopped for one day. I feel like it's going to go back to normal because the Jets rushing attack, they pounded the Bills D line. Their defense shut down Buffalo's offense. this is the wake-up call they need, being 0-2 in the AFC East. They're still one of the best teams, if not the best team in the National Football League. They just need to buckle down for the remainder of the season. But I think they have the mentality and the belief to be able to do it. And Josh Allen admitted that he played like shit. He needs to lock it up. He had his second 2-interception game in a row. Last week, they were still able to take advantage, and maybe he was like, oh, kind of taking the Jets lightly, going up against a team who lost one of their best offensive weapons, if not two best offensive weapons. And he maybe looked lightly on how good the Jets defense actually is. But his game just needs to be not so careless. He needs to not be so careless with the football. He needs to lock it up. But I mean, he's a veteran quarterback. He's going to be able to do that. So we can't be like, oh my God, the Bills, they're sucking now. We can't overreact to this. They still only have 2 losses on the entire season. They're going to be just fine. We have a Monday Night Football game tonight. I know we're going to bring in Bobby Stanley in a second to dish us out some Monday Night Football props, but we have the Ravens taking on the Saints. The Ravens 2.5-point favorites. Saints coming off of that massive victory against the team that is your loser this week and was also the loser last week in the Raiders. They were shut out 24-0, and the Ravens sitting at the top of the AFC North at this point, coming off of a Thursday Night Football win over the Bucs. They've had an extremely long week of rest. It's almost like a weekend point going from playing a Thursday Night Football game all the way to a Monday Night Football game. I don't know if you agree with me here, Zeno, but the Saints feel like an underrated team in the NFL at this point. They rank, heading into this weekend before all of these stats in week 9, they ranked 5th in yards per play, right behind the Bills, Chiefs, Dolphins, and Lions, weirdly, are ahead of them. They're also one of the top teams in the league in third down conversions. Do you think they have a chance at home to be able to beat a Ravens team? Would you take them plus 2.5? Would you take them on the money line? How do you feel about the Saints?
Well, I don't know if the 2.5s are still there. Obviously grab one. I'm seeing 1.5 at a bunch of shops right now. And I say all that to say that, it changes the money line from 2.5 to 1.5, obviously. But I'm backing the Saints tonight. It's my play of the day. This is a Saints defense that is still very good, still very talented. They're very good against the pass. And the environment in the Dome on Monday night is always something you have to account for. Lamar Jackson is not the same team on the road, and he's not the same player on the road that he is at home. So I think obviously there will be some favoritism being showed to the Saints as far as being able to control the game flow, the crowd noise, and everything else. It's tough to Saints at home. Home dogs less than 2 are always a favorable play for me, and I like the Saints in this game.
Yeah, I'm going to get into this in a little bit too, but I like the total and possibly the over for my play of the day, and we'll get into that in a second. Before we bring in Bobby Stanley, let's go through the college football slate from this weekend because things are officially shaken up after 10 weeks. Crazy outcomes and endings to some of these games. Let's start off with Georgia. They pull off the upset of Tennessee, which wasn't really an upset, but it kind of was an upset because Tennessee was ranked number 1, even though Georgia was like an 8-point favorite in that game. The Dogs came out on top. Woo! 27-13. The Natty Championship and SEC is in Georgia's hands at this point, and they wanted to remind the entire country of that. What did you see from not only Georgia, but also Stetson Bennett impressed me in that game as well?
Well, it was a dominating performance from Georgia. And, of all the game scripts that played out, that was the one that was the most favorable for Georgia winning. It was a lot of long, sustained drives for Georgia. They were able to get Tennessee off the field very quickly, put them in a 14-3 hole. And all of a sudden, Josh Heupel, the head coach of the Volunteers, you could tell he started panicking because it was just drop back and pass, drop back and pass, drop back and pass. You can't become one-dimensional against a defense like Georgia. They will eat you alive, and that's exactly what they did. They controlled the entire flow and tempo of the game, and Tennessee couldn't do anything. Unfortunately, your Hendon Hooker Heisman vote ticket just took a little bit of a hit. I know. It's still not a possibility, but it did take a little bit of a hit as he went from minus money to now plus money again because, we're all fickle like that. But, again, Georgia right now, has the easiest path to the college football playoff and the number 1 overall seed there. And, I still think there's only a handful of teams that could even make it more competitive than Tennessee could against them. But, again, I'm not sure that anybody's going to be able to upend Georgia, at least not if they play games like that. And, Georgia still turned the ball over twice in that game yesterday. That's something they're going to have to clean up. Nonetheless, nobody's better at recovering from them. Stetson Bennett played very well. I don't we continue to have this conversation about Stetson Bennett and try to elevate him. He's a very good college quarterback. I don't think he'll be a very good pro quarterback. And I don't even think he'll get drafted. I think he's a very good college quarterback that operates very well within a system that accentuates his positives and hides his negatives.
Georgia now ranked number 1 in the AP poll. Tennessee only dropped to 5, but Bama falls, and they fall hard. They are now a 2-loss team. Brian Kelly and the number 10 ranked LSU Tigers showed guts. They had the kahunas this week, and they went for 2 points in overtime to win. Jaden Daniels delivered a perfect pass. They send LSU to a 32-31 win. Now the Tigers, not Bama, are the first in the SEC West. I don't think any of us predicted this happening. This is the first time Alabama has lost twice before Thanksgiving since 2010, and they dropped to 10 in the AP poll. Your thoughts on Alabama's performance? Because right now, college football playoff is definitely out of reach for them.
They make a ton of mistakes every week between penalties and just dumb plays and bad decisions. I've never seen a Nick Saban team make this many mistakes on a routine basis week in and week out. Warren, I backed Alabama. I knew I was a man on an island doing it.
I did too.
As soon as Bryce Young drove the team down the field the very first time they touched the ball and threw just a stupid interception in the end zone, I automatically teared up my ticket. I said, it's over. It's done. That was the entire game right there. They had a chance to put LSU back on their heels and quiet the crowd and let their defense take over and do what their defense does, and they blew it. They absolutely blew it on the very first drive of the game, and I knew they were never going to recover, and they never could. I still would tell you Alabama's a better team than LSU. They just don't play like it. They make way too many mistakes. It's incredibly frustrating to watch.
Yeah, another team that blew it is Clemson. They headed up to South Bend, Indiana, and Touchdown Jesus was looking over the Fighting Irish that day because we had a dominant win over Clemson, 35-14. ND shut down the Tigers for 3 quarters. Dabo Swinney said it's one of the most disappointing days he's had in 14 years as a head coach, but Notre Dame proved, hey, they have Clemson's number at this point. Clemson comes on into their home stadium. They take advantage, and this is what they did the last 2 times that Clemson has been up there, now no longer undefeated.
Well, listen, I said last week right here on this very show that I had major objection to Clemson being 4th in the college football playoff rankings. They literally had no business being there. Now, that did the number next to their team name had nothing to do with the outcome on Saturday, but Clemson was going to get snapped up by somebody, not necessarily in the ACC, but if they got to the college football playoff, they were going to get pasted in the first game they played because they're not that good. They're not that deep. Their defense has some questions. And the fact offensively they were as inept as they were was a little bit surprising to say the least. But, I did not expect Notre Dame to put up, 35 in that game? Dear Lord.
Yeah, 35.
That was the part that really made me scratch my head. All things said, though, Clemson now, their college football playoff hopes are gone. The ACC will not have a representative. The Pac-12 just smiled from ear to ear because that is going to open the door for one of their teams to get in now that Clemson just took a loss.
Yeah, and just a special shout out. We don't really need to talk a lot about this game, but Kansas, they go bowling for the first time in 14 years. They are bowl eligible. They beat number 18 Okie State to clinch 6 wins on the season, and they also snapped into a 45-game losing streak to AP ranked opponents. Good for them. Rock Chalk Jayhawk.
Bowl eligibility is a big deal to basketball schools. Hi, Kansas. Hi, Duke. Hi, Indiana. It's what matters when you're a basketball school. Bowl eligibility is a thing. UConn, you'll get there one day and you'll celebrate it.
Yeah, there's now only 4 undefeated teams left. Ohio State, Michigan, TCU all won. They joined Georgia as the only remaining undefeated teams. And if you look at the national championship odds, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, top 3, Georgia plus 105, Ohio State plus 180, Michigan 8-1. TCU is still 50-1 odds at this point. Are they not proving to people what they're capable of doing? Is it too many close games that they've played in so far?
I mean, part of it is I think it's the school. We're not used to seeing that little purple TCU and the Horned Frog thing, near the top. So we're continue to be skeptical. Again, was there some bias towards Clemson and making them number 4? I think TCU had an absolute argument that they are a better team than Clemson. In fact, I would bet on
Yeah.
TCU to beat Clemson, especially because Vegas would make Clemson a favorite in that spot, and they're not the better team. So,
Yeah.
yeah, TCU continues to get a little bit disrespected, but they still have a tough road in front of them. They got to go to Baylor 2 weeks. Not going to be a fun trip.
2 weeks.
Yeah, I thought it was next week, but then I think it's 2 weeks. So,
Yeah.
regardless, it's not going to be a fun trip for TCU to Waco. It could all fall apart for them there very quickly because as soon as TCU takes a loss, they're going to be out of the college football playoff conversation.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But after 10 weeks, things are shaking up, shaking and baking, baby. Let's bring on in Bobby Stanley. Take it from boys to men. Boys to men. Talk about college football all the way to the NFL. We have Monday Night Football tonight. The Ravens taking on the Saints. Bobby Stanley, how was your weekend?
It was pretty good. It was pretty good. I had a rough Sunday slate, but my touchdown score showed up pretty well. And then I went 2-0 last night in Sunday Night Football. So I'm hoping to close out the week strong with some Saints and some Ravens tonight.
By the way, Bobby, we talked about Austin Eckler yesterday morning. Not one, 2 touchdowns for Eckler yesterday.
And his first one was juiced up. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, you go.
I was going to say his first one was juiced up. I think it was like minus 135 for him to get in the end zone. But him to score 2 was like plus 300. And another weekend where we had a lot of 2 touchdown scores. Devontae Adams, Travis Etienne, Eckler was 1. Mixon had 5. So a trend that we're seeing over the last couple of weeks on Sundays that a lot of these top tier names are not just getting 1, they're getting in the end zone multiple times.
Yeah, and we have a DraftKings boost going on too. If you bet any touchdown prop, you get boosted by plus 100. So if you got that Austin Eckler prop like I did, you got it at plus 162. So make sure to check that out. But let's go over your props today. Lamar Jackson. We're feeling over rush attempts here.
It's a little chalky. It's minus 135 depending what book you're on. But I do think Lamar in prime time with no Gus Edwards, with no Mark Andrews, he's going to have to make some things work for this offense. He's hit it in 4 of the last 6 games. He's 11-4 straight up in his career in prime time. And when he wins this season, he's 3 for 5 against this line. So with wins, he rushes the ball more. That's kind of the trend I'm looking at. There's only been one mobile quarterback that the Saints have faced. It was Mariota in week 1. He rushed the ball 12 times for 72 yards. So someone has had success against this Saints defense. And I think the Ravens need to win this game. They need to stay a game up on the Bengals in that AFC North. So I trust Lamar to get it done with his legs. And no Gus Edwards tonight. So over 9.5 rushing attempts, and I'm eating the chalk.
All right, Chris Olave, Bobby, one of the only healthy receivers left for the New Orleans Saints. Although it looks like they might get Jarvis Landry back tonight, but you're looking at Olave to be the benefactor.
I do. So Landry's going to be the guy that's going to slide into that slot role, and Olave will be on the outside. But I started doing some digging on Olave this season, and he's performing with some of the best wide receivers in the league. Running routes on 95% of his snaps is up there. He's averaging 14.8 yards per reception. So among qualified wide receivers, he's 5th overall in the league. He's tied with Mike Evans. He's just behind Jalen Waddle, Terry McLaurin, A.J. Brown, and Jerry Jeudy. So his yards per reception, top 5 in the league. His average depth of target is over 16 yards. It's the highest in the league amongst qualified wide receivers. So minimum 46 targets. He's leading the league in it. And now he gets Marcus Peters tonight. So Marcus Peters does not really play well in his zone defense. The Ravens like to kind of switch it up. They go from man to zone. Olave has succeeded in both settings. So I actually think picking on Marcus Peters would be a good look for him tonight. Peters, on the other hand, he's allowed a reception of 26 yards or longer in 5 of 7 games. So he's been getting torched. And Olave has gone deep in 4 of 7 games, 30-plus yard reception 4 out of 7 times this season. I love Olave tonight in primetime. I think he really shows out, and he could be an alt-line guy. So if 63.5 isn't entertaining for you, you can always go 70-plus, 80-plus, and I think he has the potential to do it.
Are you not entertained? I'm always entertained, though, by your touchdown props that you have. And I love that you put in here in parentheses, wide receiver for Ravens. Tell me about your touchdown score this week and the good price that you got it at, over 3-1 odds.
Sure. So, I have to come with a rando. It's always, especially in a primetime game, you have to have a guy with a little bit more juice for your same game parlay. So I like James Prochet, the wide receiver for Baltimore. So there's no Rashad Bateman. there's no Mark Andrews. You're looking at Devin Duvernay and this gentleman, James Prochet, on the outside, coming off a season high 63% of the snaps, and he logs 3 catches in week 8. So he's coming off the best performance of his young career. Harbaugh had said something 2 weeks ago to the press. He goes, I think this guy's going to step up for us in the next few weeks. You're going to see him make some really big plays. 2 weeks later, that finally happens, and now Bateman's out for the rest of the season. This is a prime opportunity for him to get in the end zone. I got it at plus 330. So I do think it's going to be a little bit more of a higher scoring game. I know some people are on the over tonight. So James Prochet plus 330 to get in the end zone.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
I am curious, Bobby, about Isaiah Lively with no Mark Andrews. Had a big touchdown last week against Tampa Bay. You're not backing him to find the end zone again?
I really did like him. No lie, I woke up, it was 1 a.m., baby was crying. I roll over, pick up my phone, I start looking at lines because Isaiah Likely wasn't one that was up yesterday. He's at 38.5, right? So I'm like, ooh, 38.5, not bad. I wake up this morning, it's 40.5, and it's like minus 140. Do I like Likely? Do I like Likely tonight? I do like Likely tonight. I just didn't like the juice at minus 140 for who's going to be probably the number one target that they're going to prepare for. But I do think he shows up.
Likely.
Yes, very likely.
If you had to take a side of this one, would you take the Saints at home? Would you take the Ravens on the road?
I would take the Ravens, and it's really more about how poor Andy Dalton has played in prime time, and then kind of the polarity of how well Lamar Jackson has played in prime time. I pulled these stats up this morning. Jackson's 9-6 against the spread and a whopping 11-4 straight up in games played at 8 p.m. or later. We'll call them primetime games. 5-2 against the spread and 5-2 straight up against the Saints since the Ravens are 5-2. I'm sorry, and straight up against the Saints since 1996. I like Lamar Jackson in primetime. He's proven it. Andy Dalton, on the other hand, has not. I realize that injuries are kind of the tail of this game. But the Saints are riding high off that win over the Raiders. I don't know if that translates over to Monday night.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Thank you so much, Bobby Stanley, for coming on a Monday morning, giving us some MNF props. We so appreciate you. We'll talk to you Thursday.
Best of luck, guys. Thanks for having me.
Bobby Stanley, Prop Holiday, coming on the show every Thursday, Sunday, and Monday, dishing out some of the best props in the NFL football season. Now, Let's Bet It, presented by Superbook Sports. So make sure to go to superbook.com or download the app today. And this season, guys, we are all rooting for safeties. That is because Superbook will give you a $50 bonus on each safety scored this season. All you have to do, place a $100 pregame bet on any spread or any total. And if there's a safety scored in any game on Sunday, you get a $50 bonus. So make sure to visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Now, superbook.com to pickswise.com. Zeno, 3-star play of the day. I'm sure there's a couple up there. Who do we got today?
Oh, well, listen, I mean, you go to Pickswise to get some of these information from our sports betting handicappers. We have some NBA games tonight, none that you might be interested in. But we do have an interesting one from Philip Tomich, one from Matt Weisenfeld. And so there's a lot of different picks up there on the site today, all in the NBA, though.
Very interesting. Make sure to check that out on Pickswise.com for those NBA picks. We're going to give you some of those NFL picks. I'll let you go first, Zeno. You're taking a side. I'm taking a total.
Yeah, I'm going to take the 1.5 with the New Orleans Saints tonight on Monday Night Football. As much as this is a play on the Saints, who I think are very good defensively. They have one of the better pass defenses in the league. They give up just over 200 yards passing per game. That doesn't bode well for Lamar Jackson, who on the road in his career is averaging just 172 passing yards per game. This year on the road, Lamar Jackson completing just 61% of his passes away from M&T Bank Stadium. He has thrown 3 interceptions in 4 road games this year. So it's a fade on Lamar being away from his cozy confines of Baltimore, plus the Saints defense. Saints are getting a little bit healthier, getting back. We mentioned Jarvis Landry coming back in the fold here. Alvin Kamara should have a very big evening. Give me that Saints crowd in that Superdome. I'll take the 1.5 points tonight on Monday Night Football and back the Saints.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I'm kind of taking the Saints, but not really. I'm taking the over. Over 46.5 because both offenses are going right now. And the Saints are without Marshawn Lattimore in the backfield. Their secondary has had some big issues this season. I know no Bateman for the season with the Ravens. Gus Edwards, Mark Andrews also out this week too. But the Ravens have really good depth on offense, and I feel like they're not going to really change their run-heavy game plan. Also, Lamar can use his legs too, and he's been pretty accurate with the pass, even though the numbers that you just talked about. Alvin Kamara, Taysom Hill on the Saints side versus the Ravens linebackers. I feel like that's a lot of what their offense is going to be about. Kamara had his best game of the season against the Raiders last week. Taysom Hill having a revived season for him. And I feel like the Saints are kind of an underrated team, like I was saying a little bit earlier in the NFL. Heading into this week, they were ranked 5th in yards per play, just behind the Bills, Chiefs, Dolphins, and Lions. They're also one of the best teams in the league in third down conversion rate. The Ravens, also really good offensively, 8th in yards per play, 9th in third down conversion rate. It seems like a good game for an over right now. And if you look at their point totals this season, Baltimore averaging 26 points per game every single week on the season. And then you look at New Orleans, 24.9 points per game on the season. If you add those up, that adds up to be over 50 points per game. And the total's only set at 46 at this point. The over has also gone 4-1 in the last 5 meetings between the two. So I'm taking the over minus 110, only laying 10 cents for it. Let's lock it up. Go Saints. Points, 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 points. Rock it on out. That's it for us today, guys. Find us on the Pickswise YouTube channel. Go on Twitter, Pickswise.com. You can find us on all of those places. I'm Lauren Jabara. That's Mark Zinno. This is Let's Bet It, presented by Superbook Sports. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Best of luck tonight.